Here we go, round 6. Rashad Miller here with Brian David Marshall. We're going to watch some more Block Constructed. We have on the left, Stanislav Cifka with his awesome plain white t-shirt.
Playing Esper Control.
Yeah, he's playing Esper Control. He's going up against the slightly more stylish Melissa DeTora. She's playing mono red.
Is that salmon colored? More of a peach.
I guess this is one of those.
So you can see a Rakdos Cackler. So Melissa's playing the mono red deck. She came out with a Rakdos Cackler. She's already attacked for 2, and she's added a 3/2 Chain Walker.
Like, how's that even fair? Well, anyway, here's a Sin Collector. So let's see if we can at least get some value. And there's an Annihilating Fire, so that's 3 damage that it soaked up.
And it can trade with either of these creatures.
So that's 5 damage. That's like a Thragtusk that doesn't give you a counter when it comes back. But it did effectively gain 5 life for Stanislav Cifka. Is that the best you can really hope for in this matchup?
Pretty good.
Block. 16.
Get a look at Stanislav Cifka's hand as he
Boros Reckoner.
tries to deal with the onslaught from Melissa.
It's not as much as an onslaught once, you know. There's 2 creatures in an onslaught. 2 creatures is, you know, an effective start. If there are 3 creatures, now we're verging upon onslaught.
Nope.
You play Orzhov Guildgate and passes the turn, says Stanislav Cifka. There's an attack, and there's an away. So one of these guys goes away, and it's going to be the Rakdos Cackler.
She gets to choose. It's like a Diabolic Edict, the away side. She gets to choose which creature she's going to sacrifice if she has more than one.
Yes.
Adds a Fire Fist Striker, but is a little bit away from Battalion right now.
Just a little bit, but the 2/1 body is still relevant.
Nope.
Stanislav is sitting around with a couple of Sphinx's Revelations, just waiting for the game to get to the long game so that those can actually, you know, draw some cards, gain some life. And at 13, you know, he's not in a lot of danger. Obviously, he's still at a pretty low life total.
Here comes the Battalion.
Respond.
Oh.
And a second far and away.
Bounce. Edict.
So this is in response to...
In response to Legion Loyalist,
Yes.
I'm going to bounce 1 and leave you with only
the
a
Legion
Boros
Loyalist.
Reckoner that you have to sacrifice, and then your Legion Loyalist comes into play.
Exactly, and it does have haste, so it attacks for 1, but it really gets going when it has the Battalion trigger, which gives it double strike and trample and some other stuff. It just gets really good.
Take 2. 10.
So Cifka's going to go to 10
Shocks himself.
so that he can get 1 extra card and 1 less life. So it's like it's a combination of Sphinx's Revelation and Necropotence. Not really, but just that one little part.
Take it. 10.
So there's an attack. Cifka goes to 10. Land pass from Melissa DeTora. She's holding on to a couple of Mizium Mortars, which...
Yeah, those don't seem
not
terribly...
good. Yeah, not good right now, but they can get better. Supreme Verdict wipes the board, and now those Mizium Mortars aren't looking good at all.
And there's the turn 7 Foundry Tree Denizen, always an awesome threat. You just got to attack with it for 10 turns.
That's it.
Yep. Maybe fewer.
Hey, she's got a plan. You got to work with what you're given. Stanislav plays a land tap, so he's going to build up for another big Sphinx's Revelation.
His hand's looking a little more spicy.
Rakdos Cackler joins the party. That's going to also point the Denizen. Get in for 2. That's going to bring Cifka down to 8. But we all know that there's another... Oh, well, there's another Supreme Verdict. I didn't know that because he just drew that one.
And follows it up with a Sin Collector. Sees the 2 Mizium Mortars.
Takes 1.
Gets 1 of them.
I have to imagine this Mizium Mortars is just looking for a target, and it found one.
Was that a laugh from Cifka? He's like, yes, you've Mizium Mortared my Sin Collector to death. I'll even exile it. You got it.
Wow, a little extra for you. So there's a land and just a main phase
7.
for 7. Draw 7 cards, gain 7 life. He's back up to 15. So this Nightmare matchup isn't looking so nightmarish.
No.
Well, so Ashzel that comes down has haste, so that's going to add 2 more damage to the 3.
Of course, when you add Toil and Trouble and Skullcrack into the mix after sideboard, it could be
interesting to say the least.
interesting to be Melissa DeTora.
So Cifka picked up an Azorius Charm, plays a Jace Architect. I thought, whoa.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Up or down? Which one?
Yep.
He's going right down. He
He just wants
loves
cards?
his cards.
Cifka is a very fast player, as we witnessed in his Pro Tour victory playing eggs, everyone's favorite deck. But
Played aggro eggs.
Aggro Eggs, he played it the fastest eggs player I've seen as Supreme Verdict. Takes out another 2 creatures from Melissa DeTora.
Jace is into Supreme Verdict and the Supreme Verdicts. Here comes Ash Zealot.
Ash Zealot takes out Jace, or at least tries to, and Azorius Charm puts it on top of Melissa DeTora's deck.
You see, that hand is still...
It's Cifka's hand is very dynamic right now.
What permutation? What do I get with a land? I get an Azorius Charm on a land or Far and Away.
Far and Away, it's turning out to be one of the breakout removal spells of this block format.
And that's what he takes.
And it has been the one card of Jace, the Architect of Thought splits so many times. And, and of those times, it's been the card that's been put into that player's hand.
Thinking. It's like, do I have enough cards? I don't know.
I mean, well, if he adds another card to his hand, he's gonna have to discard at the end of the turn. So be it. And there's Aetherling.
So I imagine this. Whoa. I don't know which way this will split.
There's Aetherling. There's Detention Sphere.
And there's a Blood Baron of Viscopa.
Blood Baron of Viscopa. Aetherling by itself. Right now, Aetherling isn't even really necessary to win this game, but
Yeah, but he takes it.
why wait, right?
Yeah.
Just get it done with. There's 6 mana, still has a blue left open.
Right.
Aetherling hits the battlefield. Land for the turn, and now Melissa DeTora is down to 3 attacks.
Yeah.
There's a syncopate just in case.
Maybe she can pay.
Maybe. Aetherling attacks, I don't even think it's unblockable right now.
No.
Is this a situation where you block just because you have this opportunity, or are you just trying to get every point of damage you can?
18 to 20.
Oh, well.
12.
Lifelink from Azorius Charm. Everyone forgets about that mode. That's going to take Stanislav up to... So he pumped it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to take him up to 18.
Yeah, and then that's it. Melissa's like, no, thank you.
So getting creative, Stanislav Cifka is doing, as he goes up to 18 life and forces a concession from Melissa DeTora. So Cifka leads 1-0.
Sounds like Uri Peleg with Azorius control is up a game on Esper control in the hands of Samuele Estrade. Oddly enough, an Aetherling may have been played.
Weird. It's not too late to choose your guild and join the race. Declare your allegiance on planeswalkerpoints.com to earn special badges and achievements. Remember, the last day to join a guild is May 30th. So, I see that you're clearly Simic, which is obviously...
No, actually, I'm Rakdos.
No. Oh. Wait, is Demir your secret guild?
No, I'm Simic.
Wait, what's going on here?
I'm Simic.
You know, I always thought that, I had the idea that since this is Pro Tour Dragon's Maze, that we could kind of mix in, the secret guild with us trying to sneak through the mazes. But, enough about guilds. Let's talk about the guildless wonder, which is Jace, Architect of Thought.
Well, I mean, this has been a huge card for us here. It's done okay in Standard, but really in, a tremendous card here in Block. defends against attackers and mini factor fiction. But like, we're really seeing just like, okay, I'm gonna, get to look at like 6 cards deep into my deck, just boom,
and get 1 to 4 of them. Also, I believe this is the most printed Planeswalker Jace, Planeswalker dash Jace.
Sure. Well, this is the 4th time we've seen one.
Fourth time we've seen a Jace.
Bellerin, Mind Sculptor, Architect of Thought, and
Memory Adept.
Memory Adept.
Memory Adept. That's the one we couldn't remember.
Yeah. Memory. Memory Maladept. Yeah.
Inadept.
So that's funny. The original, originally the middle ability is supposed to put cards in the yard, but it was too powerful with flashback.
Yeah, and you know what? It turns out that it's kind of a mini factor fiction, and you might hear us saying that, oh, he was using Jace's factor of fiction ability, which was a spell from Invasion block, from Invasion actually, which was an instant, a blue instant that you reveal the top 5 cards of your library, and
your opponent splits them.
He splits them into 2, which is a lot harder than splitting 3 cards into 2.
I like to shuffle them up, put them into 2 piles face down.
Face down. If that were an option, I'm sure a lot of people would take it. But, then, the player casting Factor Fiction gets to pick one of the piles, and the other cards go to the graveyard.
Yeah. No, this they don't. They go, usually go under the deck. Sometimes people forget, just because there's so much ancestral memory connected to Factor Fictioning. I know I've certainly been guilty of putting the cards in my graveyard with it in a limited match.
That's where I want those cards to go.
It's such a powerful instinct. I've even done that on Moto.
Wait, you mean Magic Online? Worth is here. He might come in here and tackle.
No, I have a coffee table that I've named Moto.
Oh.
And that's where I play Magic with my friends.
Well, you've never invited me over.
Well, you'll have to come. It's really nice.
I look forward to it.
And say playing on Moto with impunity.
I'll go first.
So it looks like Melissa DeTora is going first.
Shockingly, the Rakdos Cackler player
wants to attack first with Rakdos Cackler. That's actually pretty greedy, I think. I think you should just randomly decide if you want to go first the next time, just to give your opponent a chance. Even though, I guess, she is down again.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are Stanislav Cifka. You just won game 1 of the impossible matchup.
Well, I mean, we know that those precinct captains are going to come in. Probably assume another Blood Baron's going to come in. Probably another Detention Sphere. Just more early creatures and removal.
Now, I get to be Melissa DeTora, and I get the sideboard.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. I'm going to bring in 3 Toil and Trouble.
I keep.
I'm going to bring in 4 Skull Crack.
Go.
That may be it.
Yeah, that seems pretty good.
I mean, that's probably good enough. So here we go. Foundry Street Denizen into Rakdos Cackler and another Rakdos Cackler. So we're attacking for 3 with that Denizen.
Yeah.
Have you ever attacked for 3 with a Foundry Street Denizen?
I have, but only in limited.
Makes sense. Was it a follow-up with 2 more Denizen?
No, it's just Burning Tree, Emissary, into Firefish Striker.
Oh, so
the constructed draw.
So Cifka, not a lot of action, just a couple of land, and he is facing now 5 to 6 or 7 power, depending on what spells Melissa DeTora has in her hand. And one of them is Burning Tree Emissary.
Whoa.
3. 7 total.
There's 7. There's the 7 damage.
1 card?
Yep.
1 card, he says. So let's take a look at Melissa's. After all that outburst, she's down
13.
to 1 card in hand and Misery Mortars.
So the Azorius Charm is going to actually save a couple of life for Stanislav, because that actually happened before damage was resolved. Just plays a land tapped and passes the turn. There's still a lot of power on the board from Melissa DeTora.
That's 8 damage.
Attack.
Sure.
Yeah, Cifka's at 13.
Look.
Take
Looks
8.
like it's going to go down to 5.
Go.
But
And Melissa's holding on to Elysium Orders, so blocking is not the key, but there's Supreme Verdict.
Your turn.
Now, as Melissa DeTora, do you just hope that doesn't happen?
well, I mean, she was obviously aware of it. She held on to her Foundry Street Denizen,
Go.
and she plays both of them. She drew another one.
So she's not going to be able to represent lethal unless she gets an Annihilating Fire or some other, or a Toil and Trouble.
He puts Jason to play with 5 counters on it. He's like,
This is definitely the perfect situation to activate the +1 ability of Jace, which is creatures attacking you or a planeswalker you control get -1 attack, or
Attack you.
-1/-0.
3%.
Yep. You're at 3.
So this is an attack for 4, but with the minus, it's going to make it an attack for 2.
gets Stanislav into Skullcrack range. He
Hurts
ups
1.
it.
1.
He's going to, he's got a Sphinx's Revelation here. He can't risk her
6.
untapping and having a Skullcrack.
Exactly. So there's just going to draw 3 cards, gain 3 life. It's going to go up to 6. And he's done with his turn. He's going to have to, just grit his teeth and hope that somehow he only takes 4 or 5 damage. But
Attack you.
that is 6 damage
3.
with the ability, so that's -3. So that's going to be 3 damage.
Yeah, 4.
Yeah.
So
1, 2.
3,
4.
4. So it's 4 damage.
Sorry. You're at 3.
Melissa's getting ahead of herself.
Go.
So 2 life for Cifka. What's he going to do? Doesn't have a lot going.
He's got an Azorius Charm.
That could keep him alive. Along with the Jace Demise, Jace Architect. Oh.
Yeah. If Melissa doesn't draw a red creature, Azorius Charm would keep him alive.
Exactly.
But he decides he's going to go
He has to start
hunting.
Yeah, he has to start hunting. Didn't find anything helpful. That seemed like a supreme verdict or nothing.
Uri Peleg off to a fast start in that match, who's already taken 2 games against Samuel Estrade.
Must have been Aetherlings.
Had open.
Draw a card.
Oh, and then we see Azorius Charm looking for a
Not the Detention Sphere.
so he can stay. So no red. He's on no red creature here.
So that was actually a Detention Sphere, not an Azorius Charm, which was a lot better.
Well,
than that.
he cycled the
Oh,
Azorius
oh,
Charm
he has
into
cycled the Azorius Charm.
yeah, into
oh, wow.
detention sphere. But
Attack
there's a
you.
Legion loyalist.
And that's going to do it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. And
Yeah.
Cifka's only at 3, so Melissa DeTora quickly, well, not quickly, but...
No, I think it was a lot less quickly than
yeah.
she would have liked it to have been based on her opening hand.
Excitingly ties it up at
Yeah.
1 game apiece.
Foundry Street Denizen just like screening through the minus ability of the Jace.
I know you're loving every bit of damage that Foundry Street Denizen is doing.
I do.
And Marshall Sutcliffe
only
is
way-
probably
the
just,
only way I
he's in
could
a
be
corner
happier-
rolling around, just
The
not
only way
want-
I could be happier is if she was playing Bellows Lizard.
Ultra Pro is the leading manufacturer of trading card game sleeves and deck boxes. If you're looking for official Dragon's Maze portfolios, card storage boxes, deck boxes, sleeves, and playmats, Ultra Pro has you covered. For more information, visit wizards.com/magic merchandise.
Now we get a look at Melissa DeTora and her TCG player jacket.
I can imagine that there's going to be a lot of changes in her sideboarding plan. Although she's looking at her sideboard, she's looking at like the Frostborn weird that are there, and it looks like she's making a couple of changes. So are there some changes that you think, some tweaks that should happen, depending on whether or not you're on a play or on the draw?
I wonder, it looked like she still had Mystium Mortars in last game, so maybe it looks she's gone back and forth on where those are in her deck.
Maybe just changing the number of Mysium Mortars?
Yeah.
Well, it seems as though there's a big strategy coming from the Esper control-ish decks where the line of defense is to put a blocker out and just, try to slow down, just slow down the game. And Mysium Mortars destroys just about all those things. It could be a blocker.
Blood Baron of Viscopa, also
Yeah.
a card you really want to not attack.
Yeah, big problem that card is. Maybe also, Active Treason could be a consideration just for the, your plan is to block and with some big mid-rangey creature.
Sure.
Well, instead, how about I'll take that
Yeah.
and deal a couple of damage to you.
I like Active Treason.
I got active treasoned out in a draft last night. I didn't see it coming. Well, I played around the first one, but it was the double active treason that really got me. So here we go. Let's talk a little bit about some of these little bitty creatures we are seeing. And here's Rakdos Cackler. Now, you know, you see as a
We want this to be any creature type other than zombie. I think they should have made it a cat.
Rakdos Cackler.
Yeah.
Well, you know, sometimes, you know, there were a lot of zombies that made the cut as 1-drop 2/2s. You know, there's at least 3 that I can just think of right off the top of my head. And this one, you know, uses the unleash mechanic, which is kind of, you know, it's creative, as, you know, it's not just a 2/2 for 1. It's a 1/1. You have to decide, you know, if it's the 2/2, you're going to be attacking with it, or if it's the Rakdos Cackler of shame, when you play it without a counter and you just block with it, like, ah. But it made a lot of Grand Prix top 8s, especially back when all of the Rakdos decks, the zombie decks, funny enough.
Yeah.
The red, black, zombie decks were still playing it. You know, you're not a zombie, but, you know, join the team.
You can party with us.
Yeah, you can party with us. We know you know how to party as we look at the Rakdos symbol.
Yeah.
You know, the watermark.
Pretty much, if it's a 2 power creature for a single red mana, it's just always gonna find its way into a tournament deck.
Yes. Well, I could think of some that have it.
All right. Like what?
Goblin Cadet.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about
Goblin.
Norin the Wary.
All right, Norin the Wary. Yeah. Norin the Wary, fair. But Goblin Cadet absolutely got played.
Yeah, I mean, it was in some sideboards.
Patrick Sullivan has attacked at my tournaments with a Goblin Cadet for sure.
Yeah, I know that against decks that don't have blockers, it definitely made the cut in those
Goblin
decks.
Cadet would probably not be as exciting today.
Right, probably not. You know, a 2/1 for 1, we could do better than that. We have 3. Well, we don't have 3/3s anymore, but we got 2/2s. All right, so we are looking at our opening hand, and I see a lot of red over on Melissa DeTora's side, which means there probably aren't any mountains. And this is a very land-light deck. It's actually 19 mountains, and when I saw that, I started looking for where
You're looking for the guild gates?
Yeah, I was looking for the non-basic lands. Like, is there like one Rogue's Passage somewhere in here? And no, there's just a bunch of 4-ofs and the 1 of Annihilating Fire. This is as pure as a mono-red deck can get. When you, as a judge, when, you know, we would do deck checks, I would love to, you know, you felt like the lucky person when your deck check was the mono red deck, because it's just 20 mountains and then a bunch of 4-ofs.
Right, you get to sort a third of the deck into one pile.
Yeah, you're like, there's a third of the deck and the rest of it is just 4s. And you're looking at the guy who's deck checking Patrick Chapin's Cruel Ultimatum. Yeah, Grix's gift deck, and you're like, ha ha ha. But this is what mono red has always looked like, and I think it's always going to look like this, unless some big changes happen in R&D, and I don't see why that should happen.
Are you? Have you been someone who's played mono red historically?
I'm from Chicago. That's what we used to do. Back when there were jackal pups and lightning bolts running around. That when you went to Chicago for a qualifier, you were ready. You had to be able to beat Sly or some mono red deck. And if you couldn't do that, then
do you remember what a theoretical leap forward it was when people started playing with those Sly cards with these red decks? Like, they're such a staple now. But there was a time where they were just like almost like a joke. You're like, how could this deck be winning?
Yeah.
You know, don't we, like, every deck almost looked like the Esper control deck, but with less ways to win.
Yeah.
You know, there were these really kind of like fine decks.
I know exactly what you're talking about. When that was the original Sly deck, when he had Goblin, Orcish Piker, or
Goblin War Sled, or whatever it was.
What, some 2/2 for 2 that couldn't block or something, and all it could do was attack, and it had 24 land, and people were like, what is this deck? It's the beginning of the new era of Magic.
Yeah, it was I think it's
was
one of the biggest theoretical leaps forward. No, and before that, the big theoretical leap forward before that was really the deck, the Brian Weissman control deck, which is, you know, sort of the prototype for what we're seeing on the other side of the table here from Stanislav Cifka. So we're really seeing an age-old battle.
Let's all look at it that way instead of just Dragon's Maze block constructed. And, you know, return around to block constructed. Let's envision that this, let's take off the sleeves on all the decks
Sure.
Okay. So 5 cards.
and party like it's 1999. I guess it'd be 94. I'm surprised there's no one drop from Melissa DeTora, but
She mulliganed
yeah,
down to 5
she
cards
did.
there.
Yeah, she did mulligan to 5. So I guess you got to take what you get.
And she's really she's hoping for a second land here.
I see Burning Tree Emissary, so
Yeah,
that
if
can.
she gets a second land, she can put 5 power into play on turn 2.
It's almost like she didn't miss her one drop. And
Is it a mountain?
that is
No,
not a mountain,
it's a
but
1 drop.
it is a one drop.
Yes.
Go.
Foundry Street Denizen. Cifka's got to be feeling good now.
Especially with 2 Azorius charms.
Yeah, a couple of Azorius charms. And do you even use a Azorius charm on this? I guess you do because you don't
Oh.
want, because you want,
Yeah,
there's
you
no
wanna
land in sight,
Yeah,
so-
you just give her the stunted growth.
yeah, Time Walk.
Fallow Earth, I guess, is more.
It's kind of time walky.
Yeah.
And there's the Denizen.
Yes.
So if you're Melissa DeTora, do you take the chance that there's another Azorius charm, or is it just so important that
You
you
just gotta get every point of damage in.
you just have to attack?
Yeah, you know. Not only do you have to do 20, you might have to do more than that.
And there's the second mountain, so she would have drawn it either way. Mountain, and we're gonna see exactly how awesome we can make this turn. There's only one Burning Tree Emissary, so we can start off with that.
So let's take a look at what's in Melissa's hand. We see the Ash Zealot, the
Oh, so we just
that
start with
piece.
Ash Zealot first.
So it's free.
Yep.
That's
Your
interesting.
turn.
so she gets Jace down to 3.
So is this strictly the playing around a Supreme Verdict?
I guess so. She wants to have a good follow-up.
Burning Tree Emissary is a very good follow-up for a Supreme Verdict. But Cifka's sitting in control of this game. He's going to get another 1 to 2 cards out of this Jace activation.
He's gonna get a Blood Baron right here.
He's sitting with the Far Away in his hand. He has a Devourer Flesh. He has a Azorius Charm. He can deal with 4 creatures, and right now there's only 2 in play, and Melissa DeTora can only put 1 in play at a time.
So here comes the life-gaining Blood Baron of Viscopa. No, he's gonna sit on that Far and Away.
Why not?
Yeah.
And he's at 20. He could take 3 damage. Probably not.
It's that kind of thinking that gets people knocked out of tournaments.
Is that what it is? For you go from 17 to 0 in a blink of an eye? So here's 2 mana, and there is a second Ash Zealot. So are we going to see a Far and Away in response? Don't you just have to think that if this this Far and Away is just going to get you out, like,
Attack
Melissa
you.
can't beat this Far and Away, right?
It seems really challenging.
Yeah, and once the Blood Baron of
But she
Viscopa
does
is
have,
in,
so she does have a Mizzen Mortars in her hand. So we're gonna put that, give her the stunted growth again, and then just play a Devour Flesh.
22 to 18.
Yes. Your turn.
so I feel like this was all attacking Jace.
Yeah.
So Cifka doesn't even lose any life from this. Oh no, he actually did lose 2, so he's at 18. Notice it goes up to 22 from the Devour Flesh. So there's the Blood Baron of Viscopa. Big roadblock. It's not even a roadblock, it's just a brick wall. A life-linking brick wall. So is this the opportunity to Mizium Mortars and then try to get rid of the Jace?
I think he has. I think she has to.
I
here.
think there's also going to be a Burning Tree Emissary in the mix.
Away.
Oh, he's gonna wait. He's gonna bounce his own Baron.
Oh, far.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's fine.
Well, I mean, it goes away still. It should be away and away. Up and away. That's probably an unset.
Up and Away is kind of nice though.
Up and away. Next unset.
I think it might even just be a better name.
Maybe. Can we just call it that?
Yeah,
Well,
let's-
not here. We'll
let's
call
do
it in our side
when
drafts.
we're playing when we're playing on Moto in my living room.
Yeah, we'll.
Attack you.
17.
Go.
So it looks like we have a result. Gabriel Nassif wins game 1 versus Patrick Cox. So
Wow, that was
they
fun
had a
match.
grinder going on over there.
It was the hardest working Aetherling in the business. Apparently, took him about 15 turns to win.
You know what? Sometimes Aetherling likes to take his time.
Yep.
He's been doing a lot of work these days. So the Tension Spear is going to take out the Ash Zealot and the
And the Blood Baron.
Yes, the Blood Baron of Viscopa.
So yeah, Dyna Charge sitting in hand for Melissa. And an Annihilating Fire, but she still does not have a third land. Remember, she's lost 2 land drops to those Azorius, lost 2
Yeah.
card draws to that Azorius charm.
You know, to be fair, so there's only 19 land in his deck. So
Yeah.
two is kind of where you want to be.
Go.
The third one is the Annihilating Fire is at the very tip top of the curve of her
Right.
deck.
There's 1.
There is one. So Jace, Architect of Thought activation, and there is a Supreme Verdict and another Jace, Architect of Thought, along with a Plains.
This way?
Yep.
That kind of tells the story of this game.
Yeah.
when you can just pass up a Supreme Verdict against a mono-red aggressive deck to take a second Jace Architect of Thought, which you can't even play for value right now. Like you can't even play it and get anything out of it
Right.
until
Card 4.
2 turns from now.
Yep.
Thinking about attacking with the Blood Baron.
When do you have to get aggressive? When do you be aggressive?
Start getting aggressive. There? I don't.
When you have a 4/4 lifelinker? I've always thought when you play Baneslayer Angel against a mono-red deck, blocking with it and attacking with it does just about the same thing, right? Because you're still going to gain the same amount of
Yeah.
life.
Here comes Firefist Striker.
2 mana, and you're right, Firefist Striker. Melissa's holding on to Toil and Trouble.
Nope, just the uncastable Trouble.
Just to uncastable Trouble.
Yes.
Go.
Draw from Cifka, and Jason's going to go up to 2, just, you know, a precursor to the down to 0 that's
Right.
going to happen.
And now he kind of, I think maybe, do you want to attack here?
This situation seems a little bit less than the last situation, so
I mean, if she attacks with everything, the Blood Baron can't block here. But he does have, we do know he has the Devour Flesh.
right.
So he
Well-
can shut off Battalion prior to attacking.
Well, I think it can block. It's not in. It's
Well,
oh no, it
Firefist
can't because of
Striker-
the Firefist
Right.
Striker. So Cifka does have
But if she
the.
has something like a Legion Loyalist here, you know, she,
So there's a 3rd land. So that's not huge, but it allows for a overloaded Dyna Charge to play a role here in this game. Charge. Also, Annihilator Fire is now turned on. Toil is now turned on, which is a sorcery, and that probably not the card that wants to be, you know, want to play right now.
right.
Oh, looks like it's being considered. There's a lot to think about right here. You finally got your 3rd land. Do you commit more to the board? A Supreme Verdict just went to the bottom of Cifka's library, and there's a Devourer Flesh in response to anything you do. Do something, response, Devourer Flesh.
Last one.
Dennison is the graveyard. That's going to
23.
gain 1 more life from Melissa DeTora, who's at a healthy 23.
Your turn.
Rainbow Clan Chainwalker gets a counter. Jace goes bye-bye. We're going to look at the top 3 cards, and there's a Supreme Verdict. So
And a Precinct Captain.
which card is worse for Melissa?
Oh, Supreme Verdict.
Well, Supreme Verdict means that the Blood Baron of Viscopa also goes away. And that's something you want. That's
Sure.
that's like part of your plan. I don't think Melissa can win this game with that Blood Baron of Viscopa in place. So make the
That's certainly maybe part of the reason she put a land with that. Supreme Verdict.
you want to there's 2 cards over there. You should, why don't you take
You
them?
like taking 2 cards, don't you?
Don't you like value? Or card
Can I
advantage?
supersize you?
So we're probably going to see the second Jace Architect of Thought come down.
Yeah.
Blood Baron of Viscopa is doing a great job of
Not attacking, not blocking.
not attacking, well, they're not blocking parties. That's the big part.
Yeah, that is a big part. That's a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Pretty good on it.
Very thoughtful. Stanislav is. Here's 2 mana. It looks like 2 white, so that's a Precinct Captain. Not ready to put the Jace. Oh, so he does go with the Jace. And Jace is going to go up to 5. So I think Cifka just wants to play the long game because he has so much life, and the cards in his deck are just so much better than what the mono red deck can end up doing.
Right. And he knows he's holding a Supreme Verdict for once he gets a Sphinx's Revelation or something like that going on. Meanwhile, on this side of the table,
Toil and Trouble are sorceries,
yes.
so it can never do more than 7 damage, usually. So it's not like in response to a Sphinx's Revelation or,
No.
All right, so Matt Nass is our second winner of our feature match.
Okay, playing
battles.
like a junk mid-range deck,
Yep, he beat Andrew Cuneo 2-0.
taking down Bant Control.
Yeah, the first game they had a really big creature stall that Matt Nass was able to squeak through and was able to snag a game 2 really
So we
fast.
have 2 winners so far. Uri Peleg
Yep.
playing Azorius Control and Matt Nass playing junk mid-range.
Okay, so it's about 12 minutes left in the round, but I think that's still a lot of time for Stanislav.
That's more than enough time to etherling someone to death.
Yeah, easily. Whenever it's drawn.
Okay, here we go. We see a Sin Collector.
And an Allied Fire in response. So the Sin Collector is going to be able to choose between a Toil and Trouble or a Dyna Charge.
Let me ask you a question. If you're going to already play Toil and Trouble,
The Dyna Charge.
Yeah?
wouldn't you consider
Putting some black mana in, yeah?
just putting some
A couple Blood Cripper for?
yeah, a couple of Blood Crypts, yeah.
Maybe.
I guess it's only in your sideboard, but
Yeah. Well, I guess if you had 4 slots for 4 Blood Crypts and you went up to 23 land, and then you had the option of casting Toil and Trouble, that's pretty big because I've seen that card deal 7 damage out of nowhere.
sure.
Just that's what we like to call reach.
Right, one of those turns where your opponent's like, Jace, activate Jace, Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, and then they have like 3 cards left, and you're like Toil and Trouble you.
The Blood Baron really wants to attack.
I think it should.
He's like, come on,
Just
I
let
can
him.
do it.
Just let him have some fun. Stanislav. Can we call him Stanny?
Call him Stan.
You call him Stan?
Yeah,
Oh, but not Stanny.
I don't think so.
Okay, Stan. Come on, Stan. Just let him. He just wants to play. He wants to get in the yellow zone. Just let him. Just get. There you go.
I'll take it. 19,
21, 19.
That's 21 to 19. The old switcheroo of life totals. There's another precinct captain.
This has not looked like a nightmare matchup for the Esper Control deck at all.
Well, it doesn't, but also Melissa DeTora mulliganed to 5 cards this game,
that's fair.
and only had 1 land, didn't draw the second.
But don't you to some extent count on this deck to mulligan or to have like some clumsy draws once in a while? Isn't that part of what you're expecting from the mono red deck?
Yeah, I mean, you expect that, but that's not how you prepare for the matchup.
Sure.
You prepare. I mean, you assume that
Really?
they have
That's
a regular
how
game.
You don't cross your fingers.
Well, I think everyone has a finger crossed. As a loyal Legion loyalist hits the battlefield, and it looks like it's going to attack by itself. No, that can't be true.
No.
Oh,
We're sitting on the team.
the old all in.
Putting our battalion triggers. Who's she attacking?
I think there might still be some decision as to who's attacking. Looks like those 3 might be going to Jace. I see there's a split.
1 card.
1.
And that 1 card is Supreme Verdict. In case you were wondering.
I mean, we know. We got graphics to show that. Technology lets us know what the card is. Only intuition can help Melissa DeTora.
This attacks Jace. This attacks you. That guy can't block.
This for Jace. This me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So precinct captain cannot block.
19.
That's due to the Firefish Striker's battalion trigger. The Legion Loyalist trigger gives it double strike and makes it so the tokens can't block it.
Strike or first strike?
I think it's trample. Oh, first strike and trample.
Is Baron Viscopa going to stray from the yard again?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so this is the last match standing in the feature match area this round.
That's correct. Gabriel Nassif wins 2-0 over Patrick Cox. I was hoping to see a little bit of the Selesnya deck.
Yeah, me too.
Foundry Street Dennison jumps in the way of a Sin Collector. I believe that Sin Collector is going to bite the dust. And
Take 6 again for.
I believe that's a soldier token. We're going to upgrade that to a token that actually says soldier on it.
Yeah.
Maybe even have a picture of Soldier Boy.
Nope.
No? No, okay. It won't. Melissa's down to 13. Stanislav at a healthy 23. Melissa picked up another toil in trouble.
Attack you. Your guy can't block.
Sure.
So not only, so that token cannot block because of the
15?
battalion trigger. And even if it could, it couldn't block the Legion Loyalists.
It double can't block. Yeah, I've had that happen on Magic Online where my opponent had tokens and you have a Legion Loyalist and they keep thinking there's a bug.
Right. What's wrong with this game? I can't click on my blockers. This is still a race that the Blood Baron is going to win, isn't it?
Well, it has been winning it.
Even though it's not gaining the same amount of life as, you know, Cifka's losing, the fact that Melissa is also losing 4 life from each of these attacks. Oh, wow. Skullcrack in response, so no life gain.
Right, sure.
Sure, 12.
12 and you take 7.
Yep, I go to 6.
6. Great token.
Great token, which can't block. So he's at 12. So a Dynacharge, I mean, wins this game for her?
It does win this game. Cifka only has a Supreme Verdict in his hand, so he has to, if he's going to pull the trigger, he has to do it now. If he's afraid of a Dynacharge winning this game.
Well, he's got a detention sphere.
Oh, he has a detention sphere as well. But that still doesn't. Does that get him out? That still. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I guess that would get him out of Dynacharge range. Four Dynacharges in Melissa DeTora's deck. None in her hand at the moment. She did have one, so Cifka does know it's in the deck because we saw it from Sin Collector.
Yeah. Oh, he's not sure what to. Part of him is saying just Supreme Verdict.
Yeah.
She can't rebuild.
That's probably a big part, but
But
Cifka would have to rebuild himself.
I know.
And
I know.
he has a great board presence right now. There's a detention sphere, so a little more conservative, I guess. I guess this isn't the conservative thing to do would just be the Supreme Verdict, but this is a little bit, it's taking a little bit of a risk. Not a big risk, but now Dynacharge is not lethal, and he still has his threat in the form of Blood Baron of Viscopa.
a Dynacharge would get in for 11 here.
So there's a second toil in trouble in Melissa's hand.
But that card's not doing anything at this point in the game.
At some
Good
point, I mean, they're
And
not
she can't- And
instants.
she can't attack.
They're not instants. Do you just throw one out there and get the
One?
one damage?
Maybe.
Every point counts when you're playing a red deck.
It's certainly better than sitting back on two of them.
Yeah,
Unless, although she could be bluffing something,
could be representing something,
representing another skull crack.
possibly. But I don't know that having another skull crack is going to sway Cifka from attacking with his 4/4 and the rest of the party. Because the fact that he isn't pulling the trigger on this Supreme Verdict means that he's trying to win this game with the attackers he has on board right now.
And he's got to be concerned with time by now.
Yeah. Time's probably an issue. There's about there's a little over 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes left. So with that 3 minutes plus 5-turn
4
extension
to
plus
10.
any extension that they have,
Normal damage.
there's probably still enough time.
16.
So Melissa
Yes.
trades for the Blood Baron with two of her
Go.
creatures.
But there's still a mess of tokens and a precinct captain still, hiring as we go. And Melissa's at 4.
Go.
Burning Tree Embassy just comes down for defense. And there's a Sin Collector. He's going to get to see Melissa's hand, which isn't very good. There's a couple of toiling troubles in. One of them's going to hit the exile zone, and he's going to know that the coast is clear for others, so. And comes the team, doesn't really care how Melissa blocks because it's not going to be very profitable anyway.
Is to eat a token and then just get chump the precinct captain.
Right, and because if you let the precinct captain through, there's just going to, blocking a token just to keep your guy around means that it's going to be replaced by a token because the precinct captain got through. So might as well save the 2 life and not let him get another token.
Here's a Boros Reckoner.
This is interesting. I don't know if this is enough to keep. Oh, it is enough to keep her alive because,
Right, because the precinct captain has first strike.
So this attack, if
She's at 2.
if Cifka attacks with the precinct captain, that first strike damage is going to be dealt to the Boros Reckoner, and then the redirection is going to happen immediately.
He just says go.
Wow, the Reckoner just brick-walled Cifka's offense. And now we're both drawing off the top. But I believe that the card that Stanislav Cifka drew might be a Sphinx's Revelation.
Might be and is.
I drew 12 cards from my one card. Well, not 12, but it's a lot. It's like 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
2 cards.
Yep.
Now they play the staring contest. He's like, do I tap out? Yes, he does.
I think you just have to tap out. This is
9.
the end of Melissa DeTora's turn. The best thing she could do, the best thing she could do is skull crack
13?
you. That's fine. You don't gain the life, but you still draw 9 cards, which is really what we're talking about because 13 life is still a lot of life when we're looking at Melissa DeTora at 2.
He shows her the Supreme Verdict. I mean, the detention sphere that he's going to use to get the Boros Reckoner out of the way, and that'll be the game.
That's it. Stanislav Cifka wins this match 2-1. 3-1.
Esper controlled the mono-red matchup.
The
Quite
beat the nightmare matchup.
Right.
Apparently, you know what? Maybe Matej Zenokai is just feeding us misinformation. Maybe he's trying to put the feelers up, make everyone think, false sense of security. Like, you're playing my. I can't believe that guy. Okay, maybe he's not. He wouldn't do that. He would not do that. He's the nicest guy in the world. I think he's the second nicest person.
After me?
After you, obviously. You are the nicest person in Magic. Then Matej Zenokai. Then.
People at home think I'm pretty nice.
Then Brandon Shield. So we're going to hit it down to an interview with Sheldon Menery interviewing Stanislav Cifka.
Hey, Sheldon Menery down here in the feature match area with Stanislav Cifka. That was a really, really tense matchup, especially at the end. There was a point where you could have cast the supreme verdict, but it seemed like you wanted to keep your own Blood Baron around.
Yeah, sure. I got a pressure on the board, so it wasn't necessary to cast the supreme verdict on him. Yeah.
You really looked like you were thinking about it, though.
Yeah, because I was short on white mana with Captain on a hand, and if I could cast Supreme Verdict and then recast the Captain, it would be good for me, but unfortunately I didn't have 4 white sources, so the options wasn't very relevant.
Now, that first game you played at breakneck speed, like you're the fastest player in Magic ever. You were way ahead. But then in this game, it seemed like you had a lot more thinking to do. What were you worried about her coming over the top with to cost you that game?
Like, I was thinking she could top deck Dyna Charge, and I was just making sure that it's not gonna be for little damage. So yeah, I was thinking what to remove Detention Sphere to survive Dyna Charge and so on. I was thinking about her possible top decking mode. Yeah.
All right, thanks for your time. I know you have another round to get to. Good luck the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you.
All right, Sheldon Menery back down here in the feature match area. Let's go back to Rashad and Brian David Marshall.
But these pros think about all the angles. All the angles. Okay. We're going to send it back to the news desk because I'm done with this guy. I'm just going to leave him here. I'm done. Back to the news desk. Let's do it. I'd drop the mic if I could, but I don't have a mic. Just drop the mic.
Okay. All right.
I guess I don't have a mic to drop.
Hey guys, welcome back to the News Desk. Marshall Sutcliffe here. All right, we've got a bunch of stuff lined up for you in the next few minutes, but first, let's take a look at the standings. We've got some, we were keeping an eye on some 3-0s, so let's bring up the graphic and let's see what's happened since then. Melissa DeTora, we just saw her on camera, top 8 of the last Pro Tour. She's now 3-3 after a 3-0 start. She has to be disappointed with that. Another person who has to be disappointed right now is PV. Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa falls to 3-3 after a 3-0 start. He is fighting to make gold, which will qualify him for all the Pro Tours. If he bombs out of this thing, he could be looking at silver for next season. Now, he is in the Hall of Fame, so he's got some other options there. But still, this is a tough field for him. Willie Adel, his countryman, is 4-2, so maybe not the ideal round for Constructed, but he's still very much in this thing and looking pretty good. Samuel Strati looking to stay perfect, can't quite do it, loses that last match. He goes to 5-1. He's still in a great position to be the representative for Italy at the World Magic Cup. Efro, Eric Froelich, he's at 4-2 now. Again, he's probably not happy with it because sometimes he doesn't like going 1-2 very much, but still 4-2, a respectable record at this point. Same thing for Lukas Jaklovsky. He's sitting at 4-2 now. Undefeated player, Robert Jurkovic. Now this is a really interesting one because we knew coming in that this guy knows block. He has an unbelievable match win percentage for block. He also 3-0'd his draft, which is a great start, and he's 3-0'd in block as well, sitting at 6-0. Robert Maher, affectionately known as Bob, he is also sitting at 6-0. Really great. We don't see him out here at all of the Pro Tours, but having a 6-0 start is fantastic for Bob Maher, so kudos to him. Makihiro Mihara is sitting at 5-1, another stellar record. Uri Peleg, he right now is also undefeated, so a perfect start in both of constructed and draft. He's got a couple more rounds to go to try to maintain that perfection. Dennis Rashid, we saw a deck tech with him earlier. He's sitting at 5-1. Tomohiro Saito back on the Pro Tour, 4-1 currently. Felipe Tapia Becerra is sitting at 4-2 from Chile, and Yuya Watanabe 4-1, although we're going to get updates on that. The 4-1s are both, they're still coming in. The time in the round has been called fairly recently, so we're still getting those last few matches. This could be one of them. Elias Watsfeld, he's at 3-2, could be 4-2, could be 3-3. Obviously a huge difference there. The people that are sitting at 4-2 are in a pretty decent spot. 3-3 is a little disappointing at this point. And last we have Craig Wesco, who's able to turn a 3-0 start in draft into a 5-1 going 2-1 in the constructed block portion. Okay, I have something pretty exciting for you. Another deck tech with Zach Hill. This time he is with Patrick Sullivan. They're over there at the wall right now. I'm going to send it to them, and then we'll be back here with me and Zach to talk some cards. See you guys in a minute.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Zach Hill. I'm here with Master of the Lightning Bolt at Basic Mountain on Twitter, Patrick Sullivan.
Howdy, Zach.
It's very good to see you. Now, what deck are you playing today at Pro Tour Dragon's Maze?
So I'm playing Boros Aggro. It's been around in various iterations basically since Magic existed, but the goal of the deck is to get on the board fast with a bunch of cheap, efficient creatures, and then close the game out with a mixture of burn spells and creature pump effects.
Awesome. So let's actually take a look at some of those cheap, efficient creatures, because you have a lot of them. Now, we see Cackler, Legion Loyalist, Foundry Street Denizen, core of all of the red decks we're seeing over here, as well as Dryad Militant, which you can't cast in mono red. 16 1-drops, that's pretty fast. Tell us, how did you arrive at this specific suite of creatures?
Well, like you said, these three kind of represent the saturation of 1-drops you need in mono red to get off to fast starts. Dryad Militant is basically another addition to that slot. I think particularly against Esper, it's very important to get off to the fastest possible start before they start taking over the game with things like Sphinx's Revelation and Jace, Architect of Thought, and so on. What's also nice about Dryad Militant is we can cast it off of Burning Tree Emissary in addition to another 1-drop on the second turn. So it gives you access to another explosive Burning Tree Emissary draw.
That makes a lot of sense. So with 16 1-drops, you're going to draw multiple of these in your opening hand sometimes. Which of these creatures do you like to, how do you know which one to cast on the first turn of the game?
It's almost certainly not this guy if you can avoid it. It's either between Cackler or Foundry Street Denizen. The biggest thing is if you have a Burning Tree Emissary, you almost certainly want to lead with Denizen because then you can play Emissary and then an additional red creature to get this guy up to 3 power. Cackler you want to lead with in scenarios where you're worried about a pinging effect, such as is it Static Caster, maybe Electrickery in post-board games, where you want to lead off with as many 2-toughness creatures in general. But generally, because Foundry Street Denizen is very good early on and quickly gets worse, you want to lead with this creature.
Kind of want to get the damage out while you can, while there's not a lot on the board. All right, let's take a look at the next slide. We just heard Patrick mention, of course, Burning Tree Emissary. These are your 2-drops. Now, Burning Tree Emissary, pretty self-explanatory, comes out really quick. It's obviously a free creature. Fire Fist Striker, I think, may merit a little more explanation. There's a lot of other 2-drops you can play in this slot. Why is this guy so effective?
Fire Fist Striker is very important to being the green decks. Most of their plans against you involve clogging up the ground with things like Voice, Loxodon Smiter, what have you, and grinding the game down to the point where they can start taking over the game, whether it's with additional big creatures, whether it's with Advent of the Worm, and then beginning to populate and so on. So this is very important in turns 3, 4, and 5 of pushing through the defenses that the green decks are trying to set up.
And you mentioned Advent of the Worm. Between Fire Fist Striker and Legion Loyalist, not going to get ambushed as many times as one may expect. I mean, obviously, if they cast it during combat, this doesn't help you. But once it's on the board, this guy can power through that.
Yeah, we talk about Mono Red and Boros, obviously, they're red dense decks. But in this format, they actually play much closer to White Weenie decks, where you hit the ground with quality creatures, and you have ways to make blocking prohibitive for your opponent. You actually don't have a lot of ways to close out the game. The amount of haste that you have, the amount of quality burn is actually fairly low. So this deck plays actually much closer to a White Weenie deck than a typical mono red deck, even though the threats are primarily red.
All right, now there is one card that does look at home in a White Weenie deck, as Patrick was talking about. Let's take a look at this guy. Frontline Medic, kind of a 3-3 for 3, does two very different things. One, when it attacks and two other creatures attack, all your guys are indestructible. You can attack with impunity. He also counters spells with X's as mana cost. Now, when I was looking at the deck list, I didn't know which one of those is more important. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
For me, the battalion ability is much more important. Like I said, in the green matchups, what's happening is your opponent's trying to clog the board down with creatures. Every Legion Loyalist you draw shuts down their tokens. Every Fire Fist Striker you draw shuts down a Loxodon Smiter or similar creatures. Every creature that they have beyond kind of your pacing of Legion Loyalists and Fire Fist Strikers is very troubling to get through. So what Frontline Medic allows you to do is just swing with all of your creatures every turn. Your guys don't die when they're attacking, and it makes it easier to push through additional points of damage in the mid game when it's often challenging to do so.
Awesome. All right, so the deck is not just creatures. We obviously have some spells, and it wouldn't be a Pat Sullivan deck without at least some ability to cast burn. Now, a card that people may not look at and think of as like an automatic constructive 4-up is Dynacharge, yet that card's a staple today. Why is this card so good?
Well, beyond the fact that it has a lot of closing speed, you have 16 1-drops, so giving +2/+0 to your team of knuckleheads is awesome. And it pairs it very well with Legion Loyalists because it gives your team first strike and trample, so +2/+0 is very nice there. It's also nice with Battlefield Medic because often your opponent is working under the assumption that you're just attacking with your small creatures because it's a free roll, because they have indestructible and you're just trying to push through some damage. So they're often making blocks like I'll put a Loxodon Smiter in front of your 2/2 because you're just kind of attacking for free. When you have Dynacharge in that scenario, then you're often turning those combats where your opponent's just kind of staying alive into blowouts because you're taking care of all their creatures.
And you can get through a little bit more damage that way as well. Now, obviously, Boros Charm, two key abilities, dealing 4 to the face and being able to make your team indestructible, obviously really, really good against Supreme Verdict.
Yeah, it would be impossible to rationalize building the deck without this card. Boros Charm is never dead because it's always 4 damage to the face, and the indestructible portion is very valuable against Supreme Verdict decks for obvious reasons. And even the third power, the double strike, does come up in corner case scenarios, especially post-board. So very powerful and very versatile.
All right, now finally we've got Mizium Mortars, just as a really good, clean kill spell in the format, takes care of almost everything else. I want to look at the mana base pretty briefly. It's actually kind of interesting, a little bit counterintuitive. Now, you're a red-white aggro deck, but you've got Sacred Foundry as well as Temple Garden and Stomping Ground. Now, what are those cards doing for us today?
So Sacred Foundry is obvious. We have both red and white mana in the deck.
Yeah.
So that one needs no explanation.
We figured it out.
Stomping Ground is a mountain that allows you to cast Dryad Militant, and Temple Garden is a plains that allows you to play Burning Tree Emissary. So it's a little complicated, a little non-intuitive, but those dual lands are basically cross-sections to allow you to cast some of the hybrid mana spells that you can't necessarily cast off of basic lands.
Right, so it's not just to dip into another color, it's actually to just make you can play Dryad Militant into Burning Tree Emissary by bridging the green that both of those cards have in their mana cost.
Correct.
Awesome. Okay, so obviously next slide we'll take a look at it. It's just some basic lands. 3 plains, 6 mountain. Now relevantly that means there's only 3 lands in your deck that can't cast Burning Tree Emissary. Meaning very easy to dump your hand in the first couple of turns. I want to take a look at your sideboards. You were telling me something pretty interesting earlier on. If we can take a look at these. Now first we've got 2 different 3-drops here. Boros Reckoner and Vishnu First Blade. So your main decking Frontline Medic. It sounds like these 2 are good against kind of just totally different cross sections of decks. Is it really a one of kind of bring out Medic, bring in another 3-drop, or is it more complicated than that?
It's about that simple. Frontline Medic in the post-board games is at its best against green, and you want to keep it there. Boros Reckoner is particularly good against other red aggressive decks. Obviously, it plays like Moat sometimes. It's incredible on offense. No explanation needed. This guy, a little bit more complicated. Vishnu First Blade, in my opinion, the most critical tool that you need to beat the Esper decks is a lot of haste. They're playing a lot on their main phase, and you need to fight through cards like Jace and Supreme Verdict. So the more haste creatures you add to your deck, the better. So this basically gets subbed in for Battlefield Medic, or Frontline Medic rather, sorry, against the Esper decks, and this gets swapped in against red aggro decks.
That makes sense. And finally, the other card, the other creature in your sideboard, not a card that we're seeing just tons and tons of, but explain Spark Trooper for us.
Again, more haste. That's the best recipe that you can have against Esper. It's especially good against Jace because if they Jace and +1 to -1 attack,
Still kills
kills it clean. you can get some weird combo draws if the game drags out with things like Dynacharge and Boros Charm. And so even though the lifelink power is not really relevant in that matchup, I would gladly pay 4 mana for Ball Lightning. And so here it is. Arguably, there should be a third copy in the sideboard. It's very important for beating Esper.
Now, do you bring it in because of the lifeline against red decks just for a 6-point life swing, or is that actually not good enough?
The problem is that most of the good post-board cards in red mirror matches are Electrickery and Boros Reckoner, which this card matches up very poorly with. Obviously, Electrickery just colds it, and if they have a Boros Reckoner on D with mana up, then you can't even attack.
Yeah, right. So, it has first strike, so the trample doesn't matter.
In the abstract, you would imagine, okay, so it's a big damage swing, you gain a bunch of life, which is relevant, but the red decks in this format are a lot more about playing to the board, and this kind of just doesn't match up the right way, the way the games play out.
So sort of like you said, the red decks really are kind of white weenie decks in disguise.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just cast their creature faster. All right, let's close out this sideboard. Finally, you're taking a look here at Active Treason. What do you want that card against?
Particularly Loxodon, Smiter decks, and Lotless Troll. The game, again, bogs down. Often they're in a position where they have to pump into a Lotless Troll very early in the game to sort of stabilize the ground and take over from there. Active Treason is very powerful in those spots, so you mostly want it for the green decks, particularly ones with Lotless Troll.
Now, there's another Active Treason variant in this set. Same cost, 1 more mana, gives it +2/+0. Does that bonus simply not matter in those matchups?
It matters less than the 1 mana indifference cost. There's only 21 lands in the deck. You're often a little bit clogged with 3 mana spells, and I didn't feel like you could risk having another spell that could be sitting dead in your hand. I want to be casting things as efficiently as possible, and so the +2/+0 would be nice, but it's really important to have the cheapest spells possible.
You can't always be that greedy. All right, Electrickery. Now, it seems like in a lot of these red deck mirrors, your opponent has a 1,000,001 toughness creature. Is that what this for?
Yeah, and it's especially important because the most meaningful cards in the mono-red mirror match, with the exception of Boros Reckoner, are the 1 toughness creatures. Legion Loyalist and Firefist Striker are what allow you to leverage your early advantages into gains that are insurmountable. So blunting those creatures in particular is very important. There are other tools you could play. You could play Mugging instead if you wanted to have something a little bit more flexible. But for me, the potential to blow someone out with the Overload if they have many creatures in play, and to fight over the creatures that, in my opinion, are the creatures that really matter, gave this the not over mugging.
Awesome. And then finally, we've got the last copy of Mortars. Again, just kind of a good solid kill spell. Kills Smiters, kills things like that. And sometimes you get 6 mana.
Your opponent might have a creature, and then this card's pretty sweet. Sometimes it's that simple.
Brilliant advice, Patrick. All right, thank you so much. I'm Zach Hill here at the Tournament Center with Patrick Sullivan, with Boros Aggro, here at Pro Tour Dragon's Maze. Let's take it away.